Hey, welcome to Combat Vet Vision. This is a channel where we're able to talk as veterans, combat veterans, sponsors, supporters, volunteers about anything, our stories that need to be told, and getting them out there as to why we're doing what we're doing and all the different things involved in that. It's great to have JB, Chef JB, my co-host on deck, and I got RJ Rowe on deck. He's been instrumental in doing all kinds of things, United States Air Force veteran, and he is the co-founder of the Veterans Transition Resource Center. And we are at the VTRC studio right now, producing the show, making it happen. I got Brian Colburn on the background doing all the hard work and pushing buttons and different things of that nature. RJ, thanks a lot for being on the show. It's great to have you. And
welcome.
And JB, how you doing today?
Good, buddy. How are you?
Good to see you, brother.
Yeah, it's good to be up and alive again. Last week I was a little sick and didn't have a voice.
That's correct.
That would have been very good.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hey, we got RJ on. Yeah. Hey, we got RJ on deck, and RJ, United States Air Force vet. He's got a cool story, and we look forward to hearing it. And the reason why you joined the Air Force to begin with, I mean, enlisted officer eventually, but let's start with why you went into the Air Force and your childhood. How was that?
Well, it was a conversation I heard with my parents, and they're talking about my brother, who's 4 years older than me. So obviously, when I graduated from high school, he was supposed to be graduating from college. So when I was in 8th grade and he went to college, that first year of college, all he did was drink and party. And such as most people, first time away from home, that's what they're going to do. And then I heard my parents arguing about wasting their money to send him to school and how much it cost them and everything. And I decided I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't going to be that guy that partied all the time, and that, even though I did later on, but I took the responsible way to say that I'm going to pay for my own education, which I ended up not doing anyway. Somebody else paid for it, namely uncle we both have.
That's right, Uncle Sam. And thanks for the opportunities we have in that military to help our veterans move forward in so many different directions.
And it's interesting, at the time that I got into the commissioning program I was in, your commitment after 4 years of college and 1 year of flight school was a 1-for-1 payback for 5 years. So 5 years of education for 5 years as a pilot, which was not a big deal, but that evolved and changed because everything gets more expensive, including college and flight school. And I believe now it's a 3-to-1 payback. So if you get 5 years of educational training, you're going to owe them 15. So you might as well stay for 20. But 15 years is a big payback to pay back. But look at the education that you've gotten. And one of the requirements was that you go to flight school, and going to flight school, you know, even if you only do the 15 years to pay back the time, you go into a nice, you know, I guess, I don't know what you call it, an easy job, flying people around the world, or you could do something else that may not be as crazy. I was told when I was going through my program that, oh, you need to go to fixed wing school. You need to go to fixed wing school. And I said, well, that's fine and well. But while I was in college, I interned with an advertising agency. I was a mass communications major with specialists in broadcasting. And we were at a filming for a commercial. I interned with an ad agency, and they hired a helicopter to come out there. And it was a Vietnam helicopter pilot, which is a unique story in itself, which I'll share in a minute. But after going up with him, he took me over, and he was about 30 feet off the ground. He says, "You think helicopters crash when the engine cuts off?" And I says, "I don't know." So he cut the engine, and we landed nice and softly on the ground, which is called an auto rotation. And I was so impressed with that. I said, this is what I want to do. The same pilot, though, a few months after we
do they even allow that now?
We do it all the time.
Still? Oh, wow. Okay. That just
Oh,
seems so crazy, right?
Well, all the services do auto rotations. Most of them do auto rotations, and they end up, instead of landing on the ground, they end up doing what they call power recovery. So you land at a hover altitude, which is about 3 feet to 5 feet.
Okay.
I was in flight test at Edwards, and we did touchdown auto rotations on all of ours because we were different. We were the test guys, so that's what we did. Anyway, I want to tell you about, and you can remember the guy's name. It's Bob Barklage. About 3 or 4 months after we did that commercial, he was involved where he was doing a charter, had a young lady with him in that, and she pulled a gun on him and said, I want you to take me over to this prison, and we're breaking somebody out of prison. So he managed to get the gun away from her. And she goes, that's okay, I got another one. And she pulled out another gun on him. Now, you can imagine a helicopter is not like autopilot. You don't have it. So you got to maintain some amount of control with your hands on the controls. And he's fighting off a lady that had 2 guns. And he was able to get the gun away from her. And he shot her, and he still landed at the prison, but he landed outside the prison. And then, of course, all the media and everything came through with that. I'm like, wow. That's pretty amazing. And that furthered me into saying, this is what I want to do for a living. And a few years later, I went to ROTC field training. That was one of the requirements in my commissioning program, was going through ROTC. And during that, we went for a helicopter ride. And it was the ride of my life. I mean, the things that you can do in a helicopter that you can't do with a fixed wing. I mean, flying jets is nice. You can fly a jet, and you see something you want to look at on the ground. You go 5 or 6 miles before you can turn back around and get to it. Helicopter, you just stop. Oh, I want to look at that. Okay, stop. And so that's one nice thing about a helicopter. Plus, there's all kinds of interesting things that you can do with a helicopter. We train in the Air Force in combat rescue, and our motto from the Aerospace Rescue and Recovery Service was that others may live. And I'm sure many of you have seen that or heard that before. If you've seen movies like, which one I'm thinking of, with Gene Hackman, and he was trying to get recovered, and there was a guy found him.
Yeah. That was he was a
colonel
for the Navy. No, he was in
the Air Force.
In the Air Force.
On an airplane that got shot down. He survived. He parachuted out, and he evaded the enemy for so long. But in that particular movie, Bat 21 is the name of the movie.
Oh yeah, Bat 21.
And in that particular movie, these guys put their lives on the line to recover him, and they even gave up their lives that others may live. It's a fantastic story. It's true. And I don't think the movie did it justice, because, I mean, there were some really painstaking things that went on there. The helicopter had landed in a rice paddy that was mined. And basically, he was on the other side of it, and they told him to stay in place, not to keep himself concealed. And that's what he did. And the helicopter eventually was blown up. And as the guys got out in that, a couple of them hit mines and that. I mean, it was a really grueling experience for, it was Lieutenant Colonel Iceal. I can't remember his last name, but they called him Ice. And it was quite an ordeal to sit there and watch these people that came to save you give up their lives for you because they were wanting to help you. And that's the kind of mission that I was trained in, and that's what I fell in love with.
That's right. We talked earlier, and you really enjoy the mission of the helicopter versus, an airplane. You're pretty much a taxi driver. But, with the helicopter, you have all these missions. And even, that's really what kept you, even though they're telling you could promote better, you can do all this. But if that's your passion.
And the paycheck is bigger. When you go to work for the airlines, you get a big paycheck. And back when I was working in the airline industry, the payday for a 747 pilot was, I believe it was $125 an hour that you got paid. So you take a flight like from, say, San Francisco to Hawaii, about 5 hours. That's a nice chunk of change.
Yeah. But I know you talked about the college being, such a heavy deal, but you also in the military, you get paid a paycheck, you get paid to live, you get time off, you get to do all these things. So your commitment still the 5 years you got to give back,
Yeah,
but
you're still getting paid.
you're still getting paid.
Yeah.
You're doing a job, doing all these things, and you went down a pretty cool path because let's talk about NASA.
Okay, well, and I flew helicopters from 1979 to 1990, and when I got assigned to Edwards Air Force Base, I thought I knew how to fly a helicopter after all that time, but that's when I really learned how to fly, because we did the flight test support in support of all the flight test missions. First flight for the C-17, we did the F-22 and F-23. I flew against them head to head under a profile where we were basically a target and they were trying to knock us out of the sky. And we're given, you've got a pile of stuff about yay high and their test sheets, and you go over them page by page, and that tells you what parameters you have to meet. And it's all part of a profile they build for that mission. And you go over and they try to do things, and you're given things to do to counteract what they're doing in that. But I did that too. And one of the unique things that we did at Edwards, because we were a landing site for the space shuttle.
One of 5, right? There's five landing sites for the space shuttle.
There 5 or 6.
5 or 6.
There's
Okay.
like one in Australia, of course, Edwards and NASA down in Florida, in Spain, and there's one more someplace else, and I can't remember the exact location on it. But all of these sites, whenever there's a space shuttle launch, all of these sites would come up and be active with helicopters standing by. If there was an emergency, then the space shuttle would do what they call either an abort once around, called AOA, and that was just one of the different type of emergencies. There were different modes, with mode 8 being the worst one, which is a crash. And we gear up and we train to respond to that. And my capacity, my first experience was flying the helicopter for that mission. And as at Edwards, because there are 7 astronauts on the space shuttle, we had a set of hospitals in Los Angeles that had certain specialties that we would take the astronauts to. So I got my first experience flying over a city. I mean, I flew over Tokyo, but I wasn't landing on top of buildings or anything like that. And when I did the space shuttle program, we were landing at these hospitals because we had to check them every 6 months. You had to get checked to make sure that they were still plausible landing sites and that. So I enjoyed that, but then they said, we're going to put you up in the control room. And I sat up with a big console in front of me. And as I said, I was the Department of Defense, Edwards Air Force Base, called DOD. Edwards was a call sign. And I worked with DOD Houston. I worked with DOD Cape, which was Cape Canaveral or Cape Kennedy, whichever one you want to use. And then the other DOD sites, we had in Spain, Australia, and I can't remember the other one. But we had places where we could land the space shuttle in case there was an emergency. And that's what we did. I stood by, and if anything happened, we would respond to it. I wrote and to say directed, I directed an exercise that was probably the most realistic of a Mode 8 space shuttle crash. And I'm sure it's still talked about at NASA, because we simulated the crash of the space shuttle. We deployed the ground contingency that goes along with that, with them to the location. They set up a national defense area. They have to deal with all the chemicals and everything associated with the shuttle, because there are some very nasty chemicals. You think about space travel as a whole. It's not just a matter of breathing oxygen while you're up in space, but you got to have the other chemicals on there, because you need what they call the orbital maneuvering system, the OMS, which are the little jets that fire off to keep the shuttle on its path and on course and that. And then you've got the reentry rockets and all that. So you have a lot of different chemicals mixed there. And if it's in a shuttle crash, those would obviously break. And then we did a crash where we actually had some dummies. We had access to some dummies, and we put them in different places because we said they successfully were able to parachute out of the shuttle. And I'll tell you, getting out of the shuttle is kind of interesting because there's a long pole that juts out of the side hatch, and the parachute slides down that before it gets you away from the space shuttle, so you don't hit it on the way out of the shuttle. So it does that. And then we had a couple astronauts that landed elsewhere. And at the time, this was like in 1994, the use of FLIR by the military was still pretty new. And we hadn't used that before. FLIR is the forward-looking infrared. And we used that, and we posted those two guys. The search went on into the night. We used the FLIR on 2 helicopters to locate the other 2 astronauts, simulated astronauts, because this was an exercise, and they were able to pick them up and return them. And it was a good exercise. Let's put it that way. Had a lot of fun writing it. Had a lot of fun directing it, and the people that were involved with it, they said it was extremely realistic.
Wow. Yeah, those are incredible things. I mean, the military does go, the distance when it comes to training. It really does. And that's an incredible story. And the Navy uses FLIR too. I want to say, we use it to look through the walls of the ship to see if there's, fire on the other sides. And obviously this is important before you go through a space that's, when you're dealing with rescue. And just an incredible, awesome story. I mean, you got to do some really incredible things in your time. And then you got it. What did you retire after that? What did you retire?
I thought I retired after.
Yeah, you thought you retired, but they called you back.
Yeah, I retired 1995 and went to work in the civilian world. I first started at OSHA for a short time, and then I said, let me go fly helicopters again. So I was flying helicopters out to the Grand Canyon.
And can you talk about your transition? How was that, and getting the job, what was it that steered you,
well,
once you got out?
Once I got
or
out,
did you already have something going on?
The transition assistance program is there to help veterans transition out. And when I went out in 1995, I got actually about a 1/4-inch thick set of papers, and it had all my jobs in the military with the civilian equivalent on them and what jobs I could go and do. So being a helicopter pilot, obviously there were helicopter jobs on there, but also doing that rated supplement type work, I knew about management. And on one of the pages, the thing, if I would have taken it, I would have been in Naples, Florida, being the manager at a prison. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, going to Florida is nice, but managing prison, you learn a lot about management in the Air Force, just as I'm sure chiefs and senior chiefs learn. They learn a lot about management and working with people in that, because they're the ones to go to when you want to get stuff done. You go to your senior NCOs and say, hey, chief, can you get this done for me? And they're the ones that can do it. You don't go to somebody, Lieutenant JG, Ensign, get this done. No, they're not going to do it. It's going to be the chiefs, senior chiefs, or chief masters, whatever you want to call them.
Right. And so you had this awesome book of relatable jobs,
right. And I
lots of choices.
I looked at them, and after going through some kidney stones in the military, I knew that my license to fly was dependent on my physical condition. And
those physicals are very serious.
They are very serious. And with that in mind, I looked at something that I could still work in aviation, that I had the knowledge for. And I found that an aircraft dispatcher is also an FAA certificate that you earn, gets you back in the aviation. And oftentimes you work directly with pilots and air crews when you're a dispatcher, and say, if they want to say, I want to divert, you're going to be telling them where to divert to, or what are the best divert locations, or do you really want to make that choice? And they do a lot of research on the ground. They may be calling other stations, seeing what the current weather is in that. If you do a weather divert, say from Phoenix, because it's just say it's too blasted hot down there, and they're having the rubber come up from in between the cracks on the taxiways, and they say we're going to close the runway till it cools down a little bit. They may be diverting here. They may call here for the weather to make sure that we're not having similar problems in that, and then say, yeah, you're good to divert there. Or they may say, no, turn back and go to this other place. Or when somebody gets sick on an airplane, or somebody causes a disturbance on an airplane, which seems to be very common today.
A lot more than ever.
Yes, is they're going to divert to some location, and you just don't know where that's going to be. The best divert that I've had experience with is one that happened over Sioux City, Iowa. And you probably remember the crash. It was a DC-10. And the flight crew managed to get the airplane down on the ground. It was in several pieces, but they were able to get it down, and they had survivors. And I went to listen to the Captain Haynes. I went to one of his briefings that he does on his road show when he goes around. And I knew that there were some difficult decisions, and the dispatchers, and they had maintenance on the line with them. And the dispatcher back there on the ground was coordinating all this. He was bringing the maintenance people in, expertise from Boeing or from Douglas in it, because it was a DC-10, from Douglas in. And he had all these people interlocked through his radio, talking directly with the crew on how they're going to handle this. And they just did an amazing job of getting the airplane down with survivors, because you lose all
Definitely.
hydraulic systems on that big of an airplane. It's going to get ugly.
Definitely.
But I went to aircraft dispatcher school. I went to Guam, and I took a job as a aircraft dispatcher with a company there. We handled United, we handled Asiana, Air Nauru, we handled private aircraft, and we even handled the Concorde when it came through on one of its around the world trips. And so we did like redispatch for a whole bunch of different people and that. And all of a sudden I got a call. I was going to go be a full-time dispatcher at an airline, mainly Continental Micronesia, or Air Mic as most people call it. I went over there and I applied to be a dispatcher, and I got a call on the phone from a guy, and he said, I want you to come over and talk to me. And he looked at my qualifications. Okay, you're a dispatcher, you're a pilot, you're a CRM, crew resource management instructor, which crew resource management is a real big thing. That's where you get the dispatchers and the crew members talking and communicating with each other. Before, in the aviation world, the captain's word was final. You know, I'm the captain, I'm responsible for your plane, you do what I tell you. But crew resource management changed all that. And that crash in Sioux City, Iowa was a big promoter of that, to get everybody talking. They saw the real value of crew resource management. So anyway, he asked me if I wanted a job working for him. Okay, what job is that? I was going to be the internal evaluation or compliance management guy for the airline, which meant I did the same jobs that the FAA came out and did, but it's internal to the airline. And any problems that I found, we would report to the FAA and tell them what we did to correct them. And actually, when the FAA came out to inspect us, we got an outstanding rating, which you can't get any higher than that from the FAA. And that's because of all the work that we did together on doing those self-inspections and making sure that everything was up to speed. What's going to drive you crazy is even the little signs at the ticket counters and that, there are size regulations, believe it or not, for the size of the lettering and the signs. There are size regulations for that put out by the FAA. So, I mean, the smallest things that you think are inconsequential, they are things that can get you in trouble.
Exactly. I think the Air Force really dealt a lot of put that into you to really kind of make that the standards have to be met, and that's going to help, your service, your time, and, makes you that much of a, hey, I'm not going to miss this sign info because it matters.
Anyway, the paperwork that they provided for transition assistance, or TAP as they call it, it was helpful in finding other things and other capabilities I had that I didn't even think anything of. Management, what I want to do in management. But I found out that doing the compliance, regulatory compliance management was in management, but I was kind of like my own boss in that. And with the vast experience I had with all the different missions I've done, they put me in charge of assisting in the transition from 727 passenger aircraft to freighter 727s. And I spent a month in Miami working with a couple people, computer people, on doing the weight and balance program as an automated feature. Otherwise, the second officers on the 727 would have to figure that out manually. And I don't want to say they're lazy, but the least work possible is, I think, what any pilot is going to want to do, the least work possible, and still get paid.
Right.
So, we got a program working that did it automated, and they just put the numbers in. It came up with the load plan for the mission, and we went with it like that. We had a successful contract with DHL, and when another airline lost their FAA certificate for not paying their bills, their airplanes were impounded, and we picked up their mission. And before you know it, I was flying fish, picking up fish on the smaller Marianas Islands, bringing them back to Saipan. And early morning Saipan, we landed there, I guess around 3 o'clock in the morning or so. And there's another Japan Airlines or other airline waiting to take the fish back to Tokyo for the fish market, which with the time change in that, they got there about when the fish market opened at 5 o'clock in the morning. So it was a neat mission, and I didn't know that mission. It wasn't flying though. I mean, I was
controlling
weight and balance and that, and it was a different kind of mission, but it was a mission that had some purpose to it. Pilot, you just get in and you're the taxi driver, because everything is automated now. Pilot goes in, checks in, picks up an automated flight plan, takes it, gives it usually to the second officer and say, here, plug this into the computer. And they plug in the computer and you're all set. You take off, go and do your thing and push the button, and everything is done automatically, which I want to share one fact. And this is something that I am very proud of, is that the Coast Guard had Omega stations. Are you familiar with those, JB? I can't hear him.
Yeah, you're on mute, but.
Okay. Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Omega or Loran?
Yes, but they shut down the Omega stations. And when they did that, the only other option we had was GPS. Continental Micronesia became the first airline to be certified by the FAA for GPS. And I was their initial GPS instructor for all the pilots that came through Guam. So it was kind of a neat thing. I mean, because I was learning too. I mean, I was slightly familiar with GPS. We started using GPS at Edwards under the table, so to speak, because we had our own GPS receivers, and we put them up on the dash of the helicopter, and we could pick up 2 stations, and that was considered adequate. Of course, we weren't using it for navigation or anything, but just for location information and that. But when setting them up for navigation and everything, it is a great system. And the I don't know, it was a great system to have.
Yeah, it made everything safer.
Oh, it did.
Definitely did.
Well, let you know where you're at.
Yeah, and you like to know where you're at
Yeah.
on the planet, especially when if everything's missing from the Omega stations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get to see one Omega station they had. They might have a Loran station there, is on Iwo Jima, and I got to visit there. And that,
I've been on Iwo Jima myself.
yeah, and you know what that looks like.
Oh,
one big black rock.
I thought it was bigger than, I thought it was
It's
going to
pretty
be much bigger when you get there, you're like, whoa, this is a small island, and the mountain on there is not as big as you think it is either. And it was just incredible to be there.
Sands of Iwo Jima made it look real big.
I know. I watched Sands of Iwo Jima on Iwo Jima. That was the first time I watched it. It was pretty funny. It was great. But
and you go, oh, that's over there. Oh.
It was incredible. So you were doing this for a long time, but then the Air Force wanted you back, right?
Well, and as we talked prior to the show, the pilots in the Air Force now, they don't want to progress and move up into the management area of doing what we call the rated supplement, where you learn how to manage systems, you manage programs, do a lot of different management skills you pick up along the way. To
do the admin stuff, everybody still wants to stay behind the cockpit.
And so they listened. The Air Force listened and said, "You guys just." And these guys were crybabies, in my opinion, but that's just my opinion. And they start recalling retired pilots and saying, we'd like you back. What do we have to do? Well, at the time, I was living in Las Vegas. I was working for Delta Airlines and commuting to Atlanta weekly. And I said, well, put me at Edwards and send me to safety school. And I waited. And about a week later, I got a call back and said, when can you start? And it just so happened I started on July 1st, 2001. The following week, I went right after 4th of July, I went to safety school. And I was there. I came back on September the 3rd, I think it was. And before you know it, 9/11 happened. And while 9/11 happened, just before 9/11, we had a Class A mishap at Nellis Air Force Base with the A-10 that was the pilot successfully punched out. And I'm talking milliseconds before the aircraft impacted the back end of a box canyon. And that investigation was going on when 9/11 happened. But after 9/11, that morning, do you want to hear about that morning?
Yeah.
That morning, I got up like I always do, and I came back. I took a shower, and my wife calls me back. Did you see this airplane crash? And I said, no. So I walked back into the bedroom, and she's got the news on. And I thought what was an instant replay was actually the second airliner going into the World Trade Center. And at that, I immediately headed out the door because it was still kind of early in the morning. We don't normally start duty hours till 7:30, so it's still a little bit early. But when I got to the base, the line was backed up. It took me over an hour to get onto the base because they had the mirrors out. They were checking underneath every vehicle. They were checking in the trunks. They were checking everything, IDs and that, verification. And we went into 24-hour mode operation, at least for the first day, until things calmed down. I don't say they calmed down, but the height of the tension had lowered enough for people to make some sound decisions. And then so we were able to go home that evening, but that was after putting in like a 15-hour day and then come back the next day. And once again, expecting to have to go through the gate. You got there extra early because they took a mirror, looked under every car, because we still did not know what was going on. And I'm sure you have a 9/11 experience too. Were you on active duty then? Or?
I was just getting ready to deploy. I was with 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines, and we were getting ready to head to Okinawa a couple months from that time. And I was like, we're under attack. I was like,
was the ship already out of port? Or?
No, we weren't, but we weren't recalled onto base or anything like that because, I just went to work and it was definitely a packed behind, everything was getting secured and going on and off base through Naval Weapons Station through Fallbrook was really difficult at the time. But yeah, everything got really, really tight. But that was a crazy experience. Yeah, for sure. And then we went to Okinawa and did our regular deployment with the 31st MEU and came back and then geared up to go to combat. So yeah, it's a crazy story. But hey, we got a couple more minutes, but I'd like for you to tell your story about how you came back. You flew helicopters,
Grand
Canyon tours, a whole bunch of cool stuff.
Went back to work for the airline again, and lo and behold, after I got recalled, I retired. I guess separated for the third time from the military, and this time I retired. I came back with some issues. Light sensitivity is one of them. I have the dark glasses on all the time, 24/7, and migraine headaches and some other health issues, and it's just impossible to really find work after that. And I was found to get 100%. So here I am 100%, and I happen to run into Jim Littner.
And we had Jim on just a few weeks ago, and he told, another co-founder of the Veterans Transition Center. You are as well.
Asked me to be the first guest on his first show, Veterans
the
Talk
radio
with
show.
Forgotten Promise, the radio show we did.
Forgotten Promise.
And I was the guest on the first show, the second show, the third show, the fourth. He said, "Why don't you just co-host the show with me?" And then he kind of fell out of it, and I just kind of became the full-time host of Veterans Talk the Forgotten Promise. And while we were doing the show, we were getting calls from veterans who needed help. They had difficulties dealing primarily with the VA of one of the biggest things, or we'd get a call from the spouse. Their husband or their wife passed away, and they were a veteran, and they were wondering, when the VA was going to pay for the funeral. And it's like, that's one of the biggest misnomers there are around. So we got involved with helping people out, and we needed a place to do that. And kind of out of that grew the Veterans Transition Resource Center. And at one time, and I'm not very I'm proud of it in a way, I'm not very proud of it. We had 3 advocates volunteering at the center with us. And those 3 advocates, in a period of 1 month, they helped 36 widows gain benefits, death benefits from their veteran that died. And that was a record-breaking task. I'm sure there's probably people out there that do more, but for 3 advocates to run through that many in one month, and just right here, all in Las Vegas, it's quite a number to look at. And right now, we're still trying to work on. We need an advocate. Actually, we have an advocate that became a accredited VA veteran service officer, and he's moved on to the Nevada Veterans Service Office down in Henderson. And so we need another advocate here at the center that wants to volunteer a couple days a week, or a veteran service officer, which would be more happy to have, because they can do more than an advocate can a couple times a week. We need one of those in the worst way, so we can kind of get things back on track. We're still, we moved into a new office the 1st of January. We're still working on getting it up to speed. The studio that we're in here at the VTRC, the Veterans Transition Resource Center, it's an alternate backup studio, and the main studio is not gone online yet. We have somebody that's volunteered to help give us lighting for it, so we're going to get real studio lighting instead of what we're using. I mean, what we have here is adequate, but we want the real thing, and they volunteered to get it for us, so we're waiting on that. And they're going to get us some cameras and that too, and a switcher fader, so we can switch from camera to camera. And that right now you get one view of us, back and forth here and here, and that's it. But if I had a camera over here, I could face it, be looking straight in the camera. And same thing with Aaron, he could look straight in the camera over here. We just switch cameras, and it would look like we're talking directly to you as the audience, which is more professional and has more of an impact. And plus, I want to do more with graphics, and that we've popped in graphics in the radio show, because the radio shows are saved as podcasts on YouTube. And if you go to our YouTube channel, which is VTRC space USA, you can see we've got almost 100 shows there posted, and you just have to go by the dates and the titles for them. But the dates, you try to find the newer ones if they're on the same subject, because as we all know, VA policy can change overnight. And
Yeah.
sometimes they change it and the word doesn't get out. And we get calls, well, this was on your show in 2014. Well, they made a change in 2018. So you have to look at a newer show. We're trying to get more put into there and more up-to-date things. I think the focus will be on, since we're not doing the radio show, the focus will be more on things veterans need to know in dealing with the VA, on what their benefits are. And I'm going to pick on veterans once again, and I'm not going to count you guys out, because you may be guilty of this too, is that most spouses or significant others don't know enough about that veteran's disability rating or what the death benefits are. And we see this every day. We still get calls here. We don't have an advocate right now. I usually field those calls and say, there are certain death benefits that are available. It depends on whether or not your death was related to something that happened to you in the military. And if it is related, then you get a little bit step ahead on benefits. There's also a possibility of what was called a widow's pension. I think they call it spouse's pension now, that will go ahead and provide some income tax-free to that surviving widow or widower, based on their financial status. You got to be pretty darn close to the poverty level to be eligible for that. And of course, if your death was service connected, there is things like DIC, dependency indemnity compensation, which helps out the survivor in a big way because that death was service related. And of course, we talk a lot about something else that goes unmentioned, Survivor Benefit Plan, SBP. And that is something that you get into in the military. When I came in, my supervisor said, you don't want that. It's like an insurance policy that you'll never collect on. Well, all I can say, he was right, because SBP at that time, you paid into it for life, and you had a beneficiary on it, and obviously you didn't collect on it, but they did, which is very helpful to them afterwards. But the rules changed on SBP about, I'd say, several years ago now. You pay into SBP for 30 years and you're done. The program's complete. And if you die of something service connected, or actually if you die altogether and you're eligible for that, you've paid into it and your survivors have access to it in a monthly tax-free check. So it's a different program that exists now than what it was when I enlisted in 1972, but it's a different program. And I don't know how many more people are getting into it, but still 30 years, even if you do 20 in the military, 30 years, that's another 10 years you're going to be paying into it. And that's a lot to consider, especially when you're transitioning, looking for a job. Jobs don't just come on trees. The third time I separated, which was in 2005, looking for a job, I got the same sheet of papers talking about all these fabulous jobs. I ended up going to work for OSHA because I had the safety background on it. And I stayed with them for about 6 months. And I was on top of a tower crane. And we were learning how to inspect tower cranes and that. And I kind of had a dizzy spell. And so I went back and told the boss. And they says, well, you got to take the jobs we give you. We put the jobs out in the morning on where you're going to go for the day. And that's what you got to do. And then I talked to the doctor said that job is too dangerous for you. So once again, that's what pushed the 100%, is that I couldn't work in a job that was safe for me with having a dizzy spell or having migraines or light issues. Hard to find work with those three disabilities fighting against you. So
hey, we got to make this a little bit quicker, but I'd love to bring you back on to talk about all the benefits, because there's a lot of stuff going on. And obviously with the spouses needing to know this information. And I don't think we're very good at explaining that to our spouses. I think there's a lot we can do. And I definitely would love to bring you on again to talk about that. If someone wants to get a hold of you or wants to do anything, how can they do that? And what's the best way to come about?
The best way to get a hold of me is at the Veterans Transition Resource Center. The number is 702-954-6300. I am option 2. And just press that, leave your name and number, and I will give you a call back as soon as I can.
Thanks a lot, RJ, for being here, for making this story about yourself. Because this is where we capture cool stories, and what he's doing now. He's still serving, just an incredible thing. And JB, you got any last things to talk to him about? And we'll bring Mike DeLeon on for a quick little segment.
Yeah. Just thanks, RJ. I've heard your story or some of it, but that clues me in on a lot more. And yes, we do need volunteers, and we do need a VSO or claims adjuster, somebody that does claims. Certified would be better.
Definitely. Well, thanks, JB. We're going to come back to you in a little bit.
I got one last
thing, RJ. Go ahead, brother.
Okay, and I think you need to bring on maybe one of the surviving spouses and to tell their story about what they went through, how hard it was, because they didn't know anything.
Definitely.
How hard it was. And I think that would hit the veterans more to say, I better tell my spouse what's going
Incentive. Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of us keeping it kind of like, hey, good luck when we go kind of thing.
All I know is I get $4,000 a month and he's 100%.
Yeah. That's
we've heard that story too many times.
Yeah, I'm guilty. I'm guilty of it, so I'm going to get on it as well. Thanks, RJ, for throwing me.
We're all guilty.
Yeah,
we're military.
That's right. Hey, I'm going to bring Mike on. Hey, Mike DeLeon, how you doing, brother? Yeah. Hey, Recon Chief Incorporated, another great advocate for so many different things. Hey, we got a couple minutes. Go ahead and throw down what's going on with the Recon Chief Incorporated and Mike DeLeon.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Recon Chief here. Yep, I just got back from a Hawaii trip. So I was out there. I took a MAC flight, or free flight to Hawaii, Travis Air Force Base. Ended up at Hickam. Originally was just going there to do a Warrant Officer 04 retirement ceremony, which was pretty cool. Ended up doing some talks and meetings with people from RIMPAC, instructors in the boat crews out there, the boneyards, because we're actually doing some film location scouting for the Master Chief movie, which is called the Master Chief Subic Bay, which we're going to be finishing up this year. So currently we'll be scouting also talent, veterans, non-veterans, military, active duty, for the film in Hawaii when we're filming in Hawaii. We're planning to do that around September this year. So scouting in Hawaii is done. Compliments of Recon Chief. Other things going on. Basically, the San Diego Film Consortium is onboarding me currently. So I'm kind of doing my little intro of what I do for the film sets for the Film Consortium. And if they're happy with the work I'm doing, I'll be plugged into the Veterans Initiative for the San Diego Film Consortium, which will allow me to bring on veterans onto the film set, behind the camera, in front of the camera. And that's all part of a Recon Chief's program to provide a safety net in the film industry for veterans, which we know a lot of, especially me. I'm a picture guy. That's also going to be part of our volunteer program, working with the VBSD, which is the Veterans Village of San Diego. And I have established a working relationship with Point Loma sub base and ASW base to do veteran programs, as far as volunteering the students on the bases that are in school on hold status, so they can come in, sign up with Recon Chief or sign up with VBSD, do some volunteer work with Pisano Artistry or with the Fleet Week, that they have every year, either in LA, San Diego, or San Francisco, and just other things. They can even volunteer as production assistants on our film sets as well. So I have a big program going on down in San Diego. A lot of stuff. we're also doing a docu-series. So we're starting off with Recon Chief. There's a small like microfilm crew that are working with veterans to do a docu-series. So they want to interview all the different organizations, nonprofit and for-profit veteran organizations that are doing like work, post-military work, like especially nonprofits, like Recon Chief, Combat Vet Vision, Warrior Builds, VTRCs, and they will go around, SoCal. I'm trying to get them to do some Las Vegas stuff, but there's, they want to kind of stick around the SoCal area. So the docuseries will start this year as well. And then last on my list really is just I recently had a meeting with a company called Mobility Made Fun, which makes the track chairs for veterans that are like paraplegic, quadriplegic, or can't walk. And I got to test drive all the vehicles and up in Sun City. And they agreed to help create this program for veterans where veterans that already own track chairs and then also raise money. We're trying to raise money to buy more chairs to donate to veterans in need. And then at the end of maybe annually, possibly biannually, create the track chair races in the desert where they can go off-roading at 5 miles per hour and, safely beat each other on the sand tracks. Las Vegas, Ocotillo.
Up hills and all of that.
Yeah. So that's on the plate right now. That's looking like we're gonna get some traction with the track chairs. But other than that, the last thing we're looking for at the end of the year is a golf tournament, and hopefully we get some good reviews on how we're gonna do that. And Aaron's helping with his buddy Tom, and once that gets laid out on the dates, we'll put that out to whoever wants to come. We're hoping to make it a celebrity golf tournament to raise a lot of money.
Well, thanks, Mike.
Not too much.
Hey, if somebody wants to get a hold of Recon Chief, throw it out there, man. How do they get a hold of you, brother?
Founder at reconchief.com.
It's good stuff. Hey, thanks for popping on and sharing for a couple minutes, and appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, Mike.
Right. Hey, JB.
Appreciate you.
Hey, we're going to JB's kitchen. JB, how you doing, brother? Let's talk about some stuff before we give it to feed drops.
Yeah, just we're cruising along with St. Jude's Ranch, the Blooming Bistro, and we're doing some catering now, and we're really looking for volunteers for the veterans, for the VTRC. We're made up of veterans, so we're looking for some new people, young blood, so to speak, to help carry the load. With more hands, it's easier. So that's what we're looking for right now. We have some time slots open, daytime 9 to 1 type stuff. So, if you're looking to volunteer and do some things, we could sure use an extra hand or two. And that's about it. Anything else going on, RJ?
No.
Yeah, we definitely need some volunteers at the Veterans Transition Resource Center. But I mean, this place has the opportunity to do some incredible things. So, we're wanting to meet up with other organizations, find out what they're doing, and really coordinate a lot of really good things. I know there's a lot of really awesome stuff that happens here in the Las Vegas area, but we stretch all across the West Coast and really try to help out wherever we can. So it's great to do that. Hey, we're bringing Brian Colburn on deck. He's Feed Drops. Feed Drops is his podcast as well. If you want to check that out, it's somebody who he totally goes through and gives some really good critical advice to these awesome podcasts that are pre-recorded. This one's live, so Brian always comes back to give us some feed if he's got the chance. Brian, how you doing, brother?
We're doing good or bad, Brian?
Hey, it's always good. We can always do better. 2%, right?
Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
2% better next week. First off, thanks for. I too wanted to be a helicopter pilot in the Marine Corps, and then they said you had to go to college. And I'm like, infantry's cool.
Inventory's cool. Yeah, right.
But great story. Really love it. Would love to see more Q&A rather than just turning it over to the guests to talk. ask the questions, lead them through the story you want told. That's always awesome. And when you do that, you allow both host and co-host to have more involvement in the show, which makes it a little more dynamic for the listening audience. And bringing Recon Chief on is always awesome. His hands are in more pots than JB's kitchen has. So it's good to see somebody working so hard for the veterans out there. So always great to see what he's got going on. Other than that, good show. You sound good. Love what you're thinking about doing with multiple cameras and a camera switcher and some lighting in the studio. That's going to be exciting to see, come along as it progresses. But other than that, you guys crushed it.
Hey, thanks, Brian. Appreciate it. And that's that feed drop stuff. And it's pretty much, tells the story. I mean, we want to always make this thing a little bit better, always trying to learn a lot of different things in different angles. And it's great to have so many awesome guests and to be right here at the VTRC doing all this stuff. I want to thank the Veterans Transition Resource Center for the sponsorship of this. I want to thank Warrior Built Foundation, the PTSD Foundation of America, Chef JB and all his good stuff and all the things he's done to make this happen. And RJ, thanks for founding this platform for this to exist. The green paint on the back is, you can't see it because it's a green screen and it's able to kind of navigate and keep us really good. But I guess this paint can be super expensive, so it's actually super interesting to find out. $1,100 a gallon for a green screen paint that's going to be donated from the same guys that are going to put all this equipment in. But I mean, this is the kind of stuff that amazingly the backhand of everybody's support and efforts really make these organizations work. And I want to say thanks to all the organizations that are doing something. And the one thing that I always forget before I do, I forget to thank the guy who sings the intro and the exit on that, which is me. If you want to know, I think I need to add that to my Combat Vet Vision, kind of the intro and the exit, because I actually sang this song with my wife, but I rocked it out for the purpose of my podcast. And so I always forget to mention that, but that's the story behind the song in this. And it's like, we serve together, we do it together. We work together to make our lives a little bit better. And I think that really comes out pretty well. And that's all I got, JB. What do you got?
Just keep on trucking. And if you want to donate some time, please hit us up. And thank you, gentlemen. And all I got to say is bon appetit.
Hey, and I got to say strength and honor. Thanks. Until next time, out.
Till next time.
The only way, and we need nothing more. The only way, together forever, that's for sure.